Is that thing wrong?
Yeah, it doesn't, I know.
It's recording? Okay. Good evening, everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started with our May 27, 2026 regular city commission meeting starting at 6 o'clock. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm gonna try to travel here because this is actually not coming through.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead with announcements. I think Director Newbecker, and we have Sheriff Height here as well. Come on up.
I'll give three separate updates. For Silver Beach below the hill traffic, Chris Cisco, he's our school resource officer. He'll be assigned below the hill after Friday when he is released from his duties as a school resource officer. We also bumped up our reserve staff this year, the 38 reserves. They drive weight vehicles. Some of them are not marked. We ordered signs to put on them. A lot of them say parking enforcement. But if you see them below the hill, a white Ford Explorer, it's a reserve officer looking at traffic, making sure that things are going as needed and calling for officers when things are needed. Next is Gene Clark Park. After the shooting that occurred at Gene Clark Park, area chiefs, including Benton Harbor, Benton Township, Barron County
date for Silver Beach, similar to the past, and as Director Newbecker mentioned, we'll have two full-time staff assigned to Silver Beach. One of them is a school resource officer, so when his duties gets done about the first week of June, he'll be there. We'll have another deputy, the other deputy starting sooner. We don't usually give out dates and times and all that type of stuff, just to make sure people don't quite know. I will say when Director Newbecker called me, we were under a severe thunderstorm watch, or warning actually, with predicted 60-mile-an-hour winds, and I thought he was messing with me, but she wasn't. So we went down and did that. So my undersheriff was there. We did have units there. So I will say, you know, I presented midsummer last year to you with the updated ordinance. That has paid off. We took several enforcement actions using the ordinance. We're working with the prosecutor's office because in some ways this ordinance has stiffer penalties than the Michigan state statute. So I've complained before that the Michigan state statute, when it comes to marijuana smoking in public, it's a civil infraction, which I don't think it should be. And actually the ordinance has it as a misdemeanor. So we're working with the prosecutor's office, who would be the one handling ordinance violations for that. So we'll continue to monitor and keep an eye on that. Like I said, well, full staff, two full-time people, and then obviously at different events and different times, we'll have more staff that's dedicated to that. We've got a plan for if something arises like it did very unexpectedly during a severe thunderstorm warning. Some people say, Sheriff, you should be able to predict when this is going to happen. Well, that would not have been one of those days. So, but as we found, it was a South Bend skip school day for 3 different schools that decided to come to Silver Beach. So, but any questions?
The only thing I'll just share is that we did hear from some residents in the area that had some concerns, and I received follow-up emails saying that they're really pleased with the response from public safety, both you two and then as Benton Harbor as well. So thank you for your quick response and for addressing it as fast as you did.
It was a minor, but we did take some enforcement action on Monday, Memorial Day as well. So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any questions?
No questions, just thank you for the speedy response, to both departments.
And like I said, Steve, we've got a great working relationship. It's kind of interesting. It's a county park inside the city, but we've got a great relationship, and I applaud you for the staff, and they were a big help that day, and we'll continue to work together to solve these issues.
Great. Thank you so much for the update.
Thank you.
All right, that moves us along to approval of the agenda.
Can I jump in for one
Absolutely.
second? We are having technical difficulties. Our IT folks were just here, and so that leads to, I guess, less good quality service. There is no video. My understanding is folks can hear us at home but can't see us.
Okay,
So just wanted to make sure everyone was aware.
thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. Approval of the agenda. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla?
Yes.
Commissioner Ori?
Yes.
Commissioner Benny?
Yes. All right, now we move to public comment. This is for items on our consent agenda or items not on our agenda. Please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Come on up.
Stephanie Grill, 516 Lions Park Drive. I would just like to know if there are going to be lines to designate the parking spaces down on Lions Park Drive. I don't want to get thrown in jail.
Lines for parking on Lions Park Drive. Okay.
Lions Park Drive, yeah. I had started where my driveway was in one space. And then, there's 5 cars looking all over for me and, police are trying to find me. So, last year, but then it was, that was really nice. I think we'll do what you follow my pattern, and they were gonna do it, but no one ever did. So I'm just wondering what's it look like for this year?
If you would like to, or we can have staff follow up.
I think best to follow up separately, but we did review it as part of the below the bluff traffic pattern for this summer and landed on doing lines that will identify for people parking where driveways are so that they don't get too close to the driveways and to the streets, the corners, but not to do individual spaces. That was something that when we had the survey to the below the bluff residents and we had the open house, we asked people to weigh in on, and that was the direction that they had recommended, and that's what we presented to the commission when we talked about the below the bluff traffic pattern and other changes for this summer. So I think Tim or I would be happy to follow up with you and talk about it more, but that's what we've shared with the commission.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any other public comment? Come on up.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jacqueline Elliott. I appreciate the update from both Sheriff Height as well as you, Director Newbecker. We did speak on the phone. I am a resident from Edgewater Dunes here in St. Joseph, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. Regarding the shooting that was updated this evening, when the teen was shot in the leg at Gene Clock Park, serious, but it could have been far worse. As for the neighbors like me that live closest to that park, it wasn't really a surprise. So residents of Grand Boulevard have been raising concerns with the Benton Harbor leadership for over a year now. There's been emails sent, meetings requested, calls to 911 made, and time after time, the response has been the same there. The police show up eventually. They say they didn't see anything. They cite being understaffed and then leave. Promises are made and not kept. The park has been in decline, and the city of Benton Harbor has not meaningfully engaged with that. So after the shooting, we kind of decided to stop waiting. I moved here from Georgia last year, and I was not going to accept this as normal for that park. We formed the Gene Clock Neighborhood Coalition. residents from Edgewater Dunes, Higman Park, and Grand Boulevard, the 3 neighborhoods that surround that park and depend on it. We attended the May 20th public safety meeting in Benton Harbor, and we secured commitments from them, increased patrols, parking enforcement, security camera repairs, spike barriers, gate closures, and infrastructure improvements. We are holding that city accountable after, and we will follow up with them at the June 10th meeting. But if we don't see meaningful change, we'll have additional steps we're prepared to take. But here's the honest truth. Benton Harbor is a city with significant competing demands. Their resources are stretched, and Jean Clock Park sits right on the border of our 2 communities. It is a St. Joseph asset as much as a Benton Harbor one. Edgewater Dunes residents walk there every morning. Harbor Shores residents, many of whom pay HOA fees that go directly toward park maintenance, use it daily. And this park really belongs to all of us. So I'm here tonight with really 3 questions for Sheriff Height and this commission. First, what is St. Joseph's role in protecting Jean Clock? Is there a framework or the will for supplemental patrol presence on summer weekends and evenings? Even a visible presence is a deterrent there, because currently there is none, and that's really frustrating. Second, Deputy Director Kazmierazak in Benton Harbor spoken about how well the regional fire departments, St. Joseph, Benton Harbor, and the surrounding townships work together. That kind of real-time coordination is exactly what was needed on May 18th. And I'd like to ask directly, when the crowd left Silver Beach that afternoon, was Benton Harbor notified that they were coming from Silver Beach, could be heading in that direction of Jean Clock? If not, what protocol should exist to ensure that communication happens automatically going forward? And can we build that kind of coordination for public safety at Jean Clock before the next incident? The third thing, which you touched on tonight, is the dangerous speeding on M63. I heard that you said you will add more patrols, wondering if we can have some type of signage or something that would deter speeding even more, because it is a problem, especially in the evening hours. So we're planning to attend the June 10th meeting in Benton Harbor. We would welcome St. Joseph at that table as well, so we can partner together. Jean Clock really belongs to all of us, and our neighbors really need St. Joseph to step up. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment?
Good evening. My name's Chris Lannert. I live at 311 Park Street. I'm one of those below the bluff people, and we have a couple of different concerns. And we're not concerned about the responses. We're concerned about trying to avert having to have responses like that. And even though our local business people don't think that the season starts until June 12th, we think our past experience have kind of shown that maybe the season starts a little bit earlier than that. From the below the bluff standpoint, we have a very high assessed value, which is beneficial to us, and we're not complaining. We all enjoy living there. But we would like to think that some of that tax money could be used to protect ourselves when we're down there. Additionally, the county has numerous times expressed that they make over $800,000 in revenue from their parking. And that benefits all of the citizens of the county as well as we here in St. Joe. And they use that money to prepare and protect all the other parks. But of that money, only our neighborhood is impacted by what happens at Silver Beach. And so we'd like to have them look at reallocating some of those funding sources to protect our property and the security down there. Some of the things that we think could happen is that we could limit the number of people in a group that go down there, much like when we rent a pavilion at Lions Park Drive. There's a specified number that you have to identify. And if we could maybe identify the maximum number of people in a group, we could resolve some of these issues. And in addition to that, if we could locate where they could gather on the beach, that might be a little bit of a help also. The other thing which I think would be very helpful is that we'd have a on the sands patrol. So rather than driving around on Lake Street and trying to enforce things from the streetscape, try and get into the beach so that you can have a visual presence on the beach, where the people are occurring in order to enforce the rules and make sure that people realize there's going to be a consequence if anything happens. So again, we're very happy with the response. Everyone does a wonderful job when an issue arises, but let's try and be a little bit proactive. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, seeing none, we'll move along to the consent agenda. Items include the meeting minutes of May 11th, 2026, invoice and tax disbursements, declaration and notice for Dickinson Park, and 915 Pleasant Street awning right-of-way license agreement. What's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All right, and to call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. All right, old business, item number 9, resolution fiscal year 26-27 appropriations ordinance, second reading.
So this is the second reading of the appropriation ordinance, the last step in the budget process. No changes from last time. I'll read them again real quick. The general operating millage is 14.7900 mils, and as we've been talking about, 3.5500 mils is dedicated towards roads. The library fund operating millage is 0.7607 mils. The band operating fund is 0.2500 mils. The rubbish fund is 1.9155 mils. The airport is 0.2426 mils, and the CSO debt is 0.4750, with the DDA at 1.8925. No changes, same thing.
No changes from last time that we approved it. Thank you. Okay, any questions? Great.
I move to approve the resolution setting the fiscal year 2026-2027 millage rates to be levied on real and personal property within the city of St. Joseph, giving a second reading to the appropriations ordinance.
Support. All right, Abby, call the roll. Any public comment on the matter? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ulrey,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Thank you, Ben. All right, next item is intake cleaning for 2026.
Okay, intake cleaning. If you-
Sorry, I will see if I can share this.
So this is a project that you may recall we started last year. So UCC had done an annual inspection on the intake, and they had found significant sand. Sand is something that's recurring in the intake, but they found sand to the point where on the south leg of the intake, it was almost 80% blocked. So they also found zebra mussel infestation on the structures themselves. So let's proceed to the first slide. And this gives you kind of a picture of what's going on. It's the view from a Cessna 152 many years ago. And the north intake is the new intake, as we call it. It's 4,500 feet out. It bifurcates into a Y, and those two yellow dots are the intake structures. The oval dot, about a third of the way up, is the emergency riser. So that enables divers to get into the pipe for purposes of maintenance or drawing water if something were to happen with the intake structures themselves out in the lake. And then that little squiggle line halfway in between demarcates the two phases, phase 1 and phase 2 of the intake cleaning project, which I'll allude to later. So the south intake is the old 1955. We no longer use it, but we do use it when we're performing maintenance on the north, and then as an emergency if something were ever to happen to the north. So next slide. And these are the structures back in 2011, brand new. And most of the structures from basically that seam there where the cone starts is buried in the lake bottom. And then the water is drawn up through those cedar slats in the radial configuration around the top. And then you're seeing daylight there and the top deck. That's a maintenance hatch that is normally in place there, so you wouldn't see that. So the 48-inch Y pipe connects down in the bottom there, and those are the intake structures. Next slide, please. These are those pesky zebra and quagga mussels, invasive species that grow on the intake pipe, and they impede flow. They've been around for the past 30 or 35 years. The zebra first, and then the quagga followed about 10 years later, and is much more prolific, but doesn't adhere as strongly on the intake pipes. Next slide. So this is a diver grabbing an intake line or intake chlorine line, and you can see that mollusk, the zebra mussel infestation there. It's 100% covered. Next slide, please. And then this is from that inspection last year. That's showing some distance in the pipe, 155 meters from the intake side. You can see that the sand level is almost up to half level in the pipe. And that, again, impedes flow. So next slide. And this is an engineer's drawing of the intake. The dotted line at an angle is the lake bottom, and you can see the pipe depicted by the gray tube under that. On the Y, those big numbers are simply level above sea level. So Lake Michigan's at about 577, 579, something like that. And you can see on the left that cone is actually a depiction of the intake structures, the intakes. And then there's the Y, which is that first little segment. And then to the first, well, to the second green bar is the project area, the delimits of the project area. So in phase one, and then phase two is from the center green line to, you can barely read it there, 30-inch emergency riser. You can see the yellow vertical line. So those are the project limits. The numbers on the bottom are the distance from the shore well. And let's go to the next slide. So in the 2025 inspection, July, extensive zebra and quagga mussel coverage on both the inside and outside of the intake structures, and then sand accumulation found in the intake structures, connecting Y pipe and the main trunk line. And then sand accumulation in the trunk line was 24 to 30 inches, decreasing to 4 to 6 inches at the emergency riser. So in 2025, we approached you and you approved quotes to clean the intake structures to the Y. One quote that was 3518R, and then the second quote in the amount of $105,000 to proceed on and clean to that midpoint between the intake and the emergency riser. As of the end of last year, of that 750 feet, they had reached 570 feet, which is farther than they had ever gotten before in that main trunk line. Mind you, they had only attempted it once, and that was in 2018, and they got all of 320 feet that year. So they really made a lot of progress last year. They're 570 feet in, and they have another 180 feet to go. Next slide. So they have proposed a budget increase request of $45,407. That includes 5 to 7 days to perform that annual cleaning on the intake structures and the Y that they cleaned last year, and then to go further and complete that remaining 180 feet from 570 to 750 feet in. So that original proposal of 105,000 is increased to 150,927.50 to complete phase one of the project. Next slide. Phase two, and that's going to be attacked from the emergency riser going back west toward where they ended up on phase one. Shallower water, not as much material, again, probably 4 inches or so at the riser, and they would proceed westward. That quote is less than what we anticipated because there's less material there. So it increases as you go out farther because the sand comes in from the west and migrates to the east. So that is $72,040. That's phase two. And we are under budget. Staff had budgeted $272,000. If you add these two up, you're at $249,970 as opposed to the budget of $272,000. And next slide. About 10 days ago, we received a prospect email from Ballard Marine. Washagal, I don't know how to pronounce that, name of that town. Washington, we've heard of them. They have an office in Lincoln Park. And they were looking for business, and we gave them the project specifications. They're fully qualified. We sent them the 2025 inspection report. We updated them on the progress that had been made up to that point, and they provided a proposal, and that's in your packet. It's responsive to project requirements. They understood what was required. Their means and methods were a little bit different. Whereas UCC uses a dive boat, Ballard is going to be using a tug and barge. So a bigger pump, a little more powerful, barges are very expensive. Also, in terms of means and methods, they had requested some flow in the pipe while they're working for visibility. UCC doesn't complain about visibility, and UCC doesn't like flow in the pipe because they deem it a safety issue. We do as well. It creates issues for us in terms of it requires us to either, use the south intake and to be offline, or to pace the two intakes together. So if you've got the diver in the north intake and you're running at a very low flow, 4 million gallons per day, and you need water for average water day demand from the south, you've got to adjust those flows just right. You've got someone in the intake pipe, and it's not as if you can lock that pump out. So there's no room for error. And plant staff is concerned about that method in terms of cleaning the intake. So this is the proposal, the proposals. UCC is what I just presented. Phase 1 will end up at $150,927. Phase 2, $72,040. There's a modest standby charge for conditions that are beyond their control. Let's say weather. Let's say there's something that happens at the plant and we can't let them go out that day. That's that charge. In 2025, there were 10 weather days. That's an example of that. They charged the city for 4 days because they were able to keep their divers busy on other projects in town. So I think that was very reasonable. So there's the total from UCC. Ballard, 260 in phase 1. Phase 2, 657,000 to do that 750 feet from the riser in the other direction. You can see the totals there. And would you proceed to the next slide? So our recommendation is to consider approval of the budgetary increase request from 105,520 to 150 from underwater construction. And then in phase 2, the $72,040, and then the changes in the budget or amendments to the budget as well. Questions?
Yes. Could you go back to the phase 1 slide,
This one or further?
further back?
Yeah, more detailed. Here?
Yeah. So the budget increase request I'm trying to remember, as we were reading, they only got a certain percentage of it done last year and the rest had to get pushed to this year. That was phase 1, correct?
Right.
And we had a bid from them to complete phase 1, which they didn't get done because of weather. I get it. They're now asking for an increase.
They were proceeding on a time and materials type basis where they had never been that far into the pipe before. So
Okay.
there was an unknown there.
So we didn't have a firm bid from them?
We had a quote, a proposal, not a firm, I wouldn't say it was a firm bid.
Okay, with the understanding it was time and material.
Yeah.
Okay, that was the one I wasn't sure. I wanted clarification there. The other question I had was, we talk about a little bit about the go forward. We talk about 25 and 26. We talk about the implementation of the new pipe in 2011. But I'm a little gray on what we have been doing as standard practice between then and now. The frequency of cleaning, how far we've cleaned, what those costs are, et cetera, just so we have a benchmark to look at what we used to do versus what you're asking us to do on the go forward.
We have been cleaning every year with the exception of a few years where we skipped a year. And last time we cleaned, last year, we did skip a year. And I think that's the reason we had an 80% blockage in the south leg.
But we skipped a year, just to make sure we're clear. We did inspections annually.
Yes.
And based on inspection results, we determined a cleaning was not required.
that year.
I
And
just
then
want
the
to make
next
sure it's
year-
clear to the commission, it wasn't a
Thank
willy-nilly
you, Emma.
skip.
And then the next year, we found that 80% was, of the south leg was blocked. And that was an issue because if we block one of the legs, then the flow from the other leg is increased commensurately.
Oh, I get it.
And it drives that sand further in because it's coming in at a higher velocity.
Sure. No, I guess the question is, do we definitively know that the 80% blockage was a direct result of not cleaning? Or was it lake activity that year? Or was it that when they dredged the harbor, they made an island this year out in the water instead of on the beach? I mean, there's a lot of variables in there. And I'm wondering, before we commit to a every year basis, if it makes more sense to continue to inspect every year, certainly, then make decisions based on that and then document whatever activity is going on the lake. It just seems like we're making a commitment to dive and clear every year, not knowing for sure how we wound up with 80% blockage this year. It could have been an anomaly of the winter season. It could have been because of sand that was built on an island instead of deposited on the beach. I mean, there's just a lot of variables.
I think it's also, again, it's the physical, the variables, it's hard to say what variables in play here or what combination of. But I think based on that Y configuration, if there's any obstruction at all in one and there's a differential flow or the other's flowing more, that's a concern because that drives the sand further.
Okay.
I think it's important to proceed and do annual inspections and do annual cleans just to make sure that that does not occur in the future. So we've seen with this, we did take a year off once before, it was okay. We took a year off 2 years ago, and it didn't work out in our favor.
I think, it certainly makes sense to me, you continue the maintenance and you calculate, and I think part of what Commissioner Sorolla is alluding to is we just want to know the predictable cost, to compare. But, there's a million other factors. I think another thing that's worth exploring is, other things that we can control. I know there's a shoreline erosion study that we haven't seen results of. That's one of the different things that I think of that could lead to what are other controllables that we could do or implement with the shoreline to help ease this and bring that down. But, at least based on, hearing about this last year and then this year, like we got to keep the water clean. And I think certainly, obviously, yearly inspections and yearly cleaning sounds like it's going to lead to, take a year off. I absolutely see how sand builds up when you take a year off. So all that aside, I mean, I think it's worth exploring other ways though in the
Yeah.
future when we get that study back, what else can we do to help ourselves? But I think this is one of those asset management costs that we just simply have to build in.
Yeah, I think we saw where it did fill in one year and it didn't fill in another year. So it's not as though it's predictable that it's going to happen. I would like the decision on whether or not we clean to reside with an oversight group, the commission, as opposed to blanketly saying we're going to clean every single year going forward at a price that's budgeted. And we know that there's huge fluctuations from one year to the next based on how much sand, how much zebra mussel coverage there is. Where if we're committing to, you can call it asset management, but if there's such deviation from year to year as to the buildup, it's just we're building in an expense that we may or may not need to do. But I'm all for assessing every year. Obviously, we need to do that. But it seems to me it would be prudent to then each year come back to the commission and make a decision based on the data, rather than just say, we're going to clean every year. Because I just point out at $250,000 roughly of the $11 million of revenue that comes to the city, that's 2.25% of the entire budget. We're going to commit to do this, not knowing if we need it or not. So I'd rather look at it on a one-off year.
Well, Greg, can you clarify what you're intending? Because I don't think, I could be misremembering. I don't think that there has been a blanket approval given to clean on an annual basis. And I don't think that's what's in this language.
Right. We come back to you every time, every
And
year.
so that would always go to the WSJOB, the Water Service Joint Operating Board.
I understood this was a request for an annual cleaning.
I don't believe so. I think the action language as it appears is to do, is to make
Inspection.
the budget modification
Yep.
to get us phase one completed and phase two.
Yeah.
I think the intention, and I don't want to speak for you, Greg, is to continue with annual inspections, maybe learning a bit from what we learned last year, but still determining based on inspection results if a cleaning is necessary.
I'm good with that.
And we're going to be, it's a conservative proposal. We're assuming that it needs it this year and they built that into their estimate. It may be that they can go swim right in. They're going to find 4 inches of sand and they'll go straight to the main trunk line. But they just built that in just in case. And so did Ballard. Without even, Ballard just assumed that they would have to re-clean the Y. And we didn't state that in the original discussion. So that was,
Okay.
noteworthy.
What
Yeah,
kind
as
of,
long as the annual is a budgeted amount versus an actual, we're just gonna go ahead and issue purchase orders to have it cleaned, then I'm good with it. I misunderstood the language.
We've always come to you.
Greg, can you talk to us about what prevention measures are in place currently, or maybe what is even available to us to kind of mitigate some of this moving forward?
We are looking at performing an intake study to look at the sand, where the sand's coming from. Do the intake structures themselves, what about the riprap around the intake structures? Just looking at is there a better configuration? Should they be extended upward? So we're looking at that and we're looking at hiring an engineer to do that study to mitigate that sand.
Am I remembering that maybe there was something about chlorine kind of helping prevent some of these mussels from latching on
Yes,
to begin with?
Chlorine helps, and what water plants have done since the, zebra mussels migrated to the United States, the Great Lakes in the 1990s, is we have fed some chlorine at the intake structure, but only in the bottom
Okay.
of those structures. So Emily, if you'd show that, go back to the beginning.
Yeah.
There is actually it is a chlorine line that extends out in that pipe, and there's a ring inside that structure, and chlorine is fed from that ring to the intake structure. Going back. Yeah, so
No, too
was
far?
that last one? What-
Sorry.
So the ring is right at the base inside that drum. The problem is that the flow is from the top down, so the zebra mussels can grow and migrate and proliferate because they don't have any chlorine.
Right.
They're not exposed to any chlorine upstream of that ring.
And am I remembering that you can't really put it further up because it would kind of throw off the ecosystem if it went out into?
Does that, and then we also lose chlorine, which isn't good for disinfection and treatment.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Great.
Any other questions?
Yeah, you're asking the engineer to research preventive measures, right?
With that study, yes,
Is there a timeline for that?
it's in this budget year.
It's in the budget, okay. That's just one timeline.
All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the budgetary increase to UCC L-3527 from 105,520 to 150,927.50 from Underwater Construction Company of Stevensville, Michigan for the cleaning of the north intake and amend the fiscal year budget cost center 591-900.005-972 from 155,000 to 177,900. Also move to approve UCC L-3645 in the amount of $72,040 for phase two and amend the fiscal year 27 budget from $117,000 to $72,040 in cost center 591-900.005-972.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Olry,
Yes.
Commissioner Bentley,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla.
Yes.
All right, thank you, Greg.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, on to new business. We have a special event application, 2026 Marine Corps League Dog Walk. We have someone here to present?
Kayla?
Who?
Oh, we have. She's marked.
So my name's Janet Kincaid, and I'm the event coordinator for the Berrien County Marine Corps League, the Wolverine Detachment 722. We're hoping to hold an event in Riverview Park. Oh, oh, sorry. On July I forgot my date.
11th?
Yeah, the 11th. And we changed it from the 13th, so that's why I was mixed up. All our events are meant to be a goodwill for with the public to get, have them get along, to know what we're doing and the different programs that we sponsor, and also make it a fundraiser to help sponsor these programs. And a lot of these programs, well, one of them you're probably familiar with, the Toys for Tots. We do that. Now they've turned that into a yearly thing. We are going to help kids that if they have a fire or some kind of trauma or something like that going on throughout the year. So it's going to be a yearly event. Plus we have what we call our Old Glory Fund, which we go around and if we see tattered flags, we replace them free of charge. And we're trying to build up enough to get a scholarship started. And we help different veterans, past and present, with any mental or physical needs that they want or need. And so they do a lot of good things. We'd like to make the dog walk an annual event, but we wanted to have it in June and everything was booked up because of the graduation. So if we can work it out next year where we can get it in June, I think it would be a little bit better heat-wise. This year's event, it's patriotic themed since this is our 250th year for the Marine Corps and for our country. So each dog entering the walks charged $10. The public's welcome at no charge to come and see what we do and what's going on. We'll give each dog entering a gift bag with several little gifts in it. And we'll have prizes for such as the best dressed, the biggest dog or the smallest dog. We haven't determined each one of the prizes yet, but we'll have several of them. And we'll have vendors there and a food truck. And at 1 o'clock, the Berrien County Sheriff's Department's going to put on a demonstration with their K-9 unit. And we're waiting on word back from the Humane Society. They thought they might put a booth there and have service dogs show what they do. We'll also have a booth set up so we can answer any questions for people that come up and want to know what we do, because I was really surprised that how little people knew about us in this county and what we do. And it is one of the biggest counties in the state. I haven't been up here but for 2 years, so I'm just learning about everything up here. But I was surprised about that. And we'll also at that booth, we'll give out information on our upcoming events. We always sponsor a golf outing in September and in Bridgman, and different things. We try to do something different. We're trying to plan a ice cream social to have people to get to know us. So the Marine Corps League mission is to promote the interests of the U.S. Marine Corps, preserve its traditions, strengthen the fraternity of the Marines and their families, and to foster the ideals of the Americanism and patriotic volunteerism. So if you have any questions.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Any questions?
No.
No? All right. I'm prepared to support it. So what's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the Marine Corps League Special Event 2026 Dog Walk application for July 11th at Riverview Park and direct the staff to issue a special permit.
Support.
Any public comment? All right. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla?
Yes.
Commissioner Overy?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank
you.
you.
Mhm. All right, next item is Milton Park Historical Sign.
As many in this room may know, one time Milton Park was the home of St. Joseph High School and later the middle school before the building was demolished in the late 1970s. With that in mind, local resident and historian Casey Gast made a formal request before the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board at their regular May meeting with a request to place a sign in Milton Park recognizing and remembering the history of the site before it was a city park. Mr. Gass has stated that the sign has already been designed, attached, and fabricated. His plan is to install the sign at no cost to the city. The Parks Board has recommended Mr. Gass' request be approved by the City Commission. Questions?
Are you going to show the sign on?
If you scroll down.
So I work in the design field and, do we have to use that sign?
I guess that's up to you.
I'm very appreciative that whoever, put it together and purchased it because it's a lot of work to do that, to gather the photos and information. But, I really cannot approve that, design. Since that's what I do on my time job, I would not approve that.
Yeah.
And did the city double check the facts?
So far, it's the best of what we've been able to come up with.
Okay.
Yes, it's accurate. Reference some of the state championships that all aligns with what we've seen with the high school. So yes, a lot of the information that we have aligns with what he stated in there.
I was wondering that same thing, as if there's maybe another historian that could kind of go through and verify some of this information.
So Casey, who put it together, is often the historian we go to check our work. But the other one you might be familiar with is our former city manager, wrote a lot of our historic signs, and we can also approach him to see if he'd be willing to just sort of fact check what Casey has put together.
I think, yeah, definitely. I mean, just smart to fact check something before we, put it out. And, we have some great in-town local historians. This is really the second time in a year that I can think of that we've had a really, nice, gesture of, someone that's kind of taken it upon themselves to just kind of buy something for the city and then asked us to put it up. And it feels like a missed opportunity to really work together, so I think we may want to consider, having some kind of a policy or intake to help, they seem to be coming up more, right? And I love to see, residents that want to do stuff, but I think in order to, we're not going to be able to do everybody's, project and stuff. And, eventually that can get out of control. And so I think we'd be wise to come up with some kind of a process for things like this. But, that said, I mean, I think in this particular, this singular, example, like missed opportunity aside, for branding, some of the cosmetic aspects of making it look like something, we may have designed something different is what I'm trying to say here. But in this particular case, once we fact checked, I'm personally comfortable, with this one. It's, in this case, this is already done. We don't have a process. We can fact check it. I'd be fine accepting this, but we'd be smart to.
Can we make an approval contingent on fact checking? So we don't have to.
Of course. To respond to what Michael said, we did create a policy after the banners were brought to us. And we can look at expanding that policy to include other signage. I think one of the things that might be the challenge is just how do we get the word out?
Yeah.
Come to us first so we can collaborate, make sure it adheres to our design standards and other things. We can write policies for sure, but it's sort of getting the word out that I think will be the challenge. It's lovely that folks
Oh,
want to
absolutely.
partner with us and we want to partner with them.
By all means, absolutely agreed. Like, we don't want to discourage it. Like, I think it's wonderful when, citizens want to see something and here, we'll help you make it happen. That's how our community was built, way back when. So I love it. I just want to see it go smooth.
Does the
Yeah.
current policy cite the branding standards of the city?
Yes, so Kayla worked on the policy to ensure that any banners comport with our branding standards, but I believe it was banner specific because that's what came up previously. So I think we can go back to it. We can expand the policy to make it broader for all signage, wayfinding, historical, all kinds. But that's not in there yet.
Okay, so that policy would not even be relevant to this issue, is what you're saying?
That's the best of my memory. I believe it was really just banners.
Well, a banner is a sign.
A banner is a type of sign, sure.
So yeah, I would group it together.
Right, so we can expand it, we can do all signs.
So I think this would fall under the policy. I mean, it doesn't even have the little triangle in the corner. And I don't even know where I'm supposed to start to read.
I don't think it falls under the policy.
So-
I mean, just to be fair, I think the policy is a subset of signs, specifically banners. I think it could be easily modified. I'm looking to Kayla for a nod that I'm not speaking out of turn here. And I think we can do that and update it very quickly, but right now it's just banners.
What are our thoughts on perhaps tabling it while we can get some more information and I'm kind of curious more about, you said tonight you would not approve it.
Mm-mm.
Is there anything that would change about the facts we've discussed tonight that would change your mind?
With this particular sign?
Yeah.
No. No, I can't. No, my integrity of a designer, I would never. No.
Kind of supporting Lisa's side of this too, we did just put so much effort into making sure that our, City of St. Joseph signs are within that branding. I know we're trying to kind of elevate the way that we look around the city with that too. So I would be in the same boat as Lisa.
If you go down to the Arboretum and you look at some of the signage down there where it talks about previous boat works and other things, very similar to this. It's got a picture and each picture has a little story with it. I think that's, you start here in the middle. It probably doesn't meet the standard of a professional designer, but I look at it this way. Right now we have nothing. It does commemorate. I would be in favor of making a motion contingent upon fact checking. This person has done a lot of work and spent a significant amount of money to do this. And I don't think it hurts the park. If at some point we want to approach this individual with some ideas to modify the sign at a later date, but in that the entire cost is borne by him. The city's not on anything, and I don't think it hurts the city. So I would be, I will make a motion contingent upon the fact checking. It may not get support or pass.
I would just hate to see this approved and then we go back and learn there is some kind of a flaw that we wish we would, you know what I mean? So I'm just hesitant and I'm at a place I'd rather table and get more information than decide tonight. I'm kind of not yes or no at this point.
Okay. Yeah, my motion was going to include the fact checking. So based on
what you're?
based on the results.
Well,
of that,
how would that work? We learn that there's something to it that I guess we need it presented again to tell us whether it's.
From my
accurate.
understanding, this sign's done. It's sitting somewhere.
Yeah.
Right, Greg?
Yes.
It's
Right.
It's
done.
fabricated.
So at this point, is whether we use the sign or not, it's a matter of, if we fact check it and we see, yep, this stuff is true. What it looks like is, all right, we either use it or we don't. I think that's the only thing we can do with this sign is fact check it at this point. No changes.
One thing that I will suggest, I think we absolutely need to fact check it. One thing that I will suggest is the same person who did the research and made the sign has also offered to install it.
Mm-hmm.
If the intention of the commission and of staff is to ultimately have a sign that adheres to our branding guidelines, he might not want to pay to install it. So, one option, if you do go forward with the contingent approval, might be to have a conversation. Do you want to install this for as long as it takes until something new is created? Or would you rather hold off? I mean, that's just something I want to throw out there because I don't know how he would feel about that.
A few minutes ago, I expressed my view that I would like us to have, a policy, to help guide these in the future. But, I'm marrying that against the fact that this gentleman already did it, right? This
Yeah.
is already made. This is a good gesture. I don't think our existing policy is necessarily super clear, right? Clear as mud, as they say. So I want to meet the middle, right? I have an ideal state in mind, right? I think in the future, it would be great if people who want to do things like this have a process that they come to us and we can work together, create those ideal things. I don't think that our policy is super clear at this point in time. I think I identified a way that we can make it better. This particular sign, I get it. It's not the thing that I would design and put up, but there's a lot of things that other people appreciate that I don't particularly care for either. So, I'm fine with it as long as it's all true. That's my main concern on it. Stylistic aside, this is done. This was a wonderful gesture. And I think going forward, if we can make these look more cosmetically in line with our branding, we're good. But you have to start those, things and new processes sometime. This one's already done. If you were to make that motion, I would second it.
I fear that it's going to fail if you make that motion.
That's okay.
And I would maybe rather just encourage a table so we can bring it back again. Unless you'd rather just make a motion.
Yeah.
Your motion would be contingent on
On
fact
fact
checking.
Well-
On accuracy, not cosmetic.
Well,
nothing
branding
against
is it's visually
You can vote
wrong.
no.
Yeah.
Because now you have a third design element. You have the road wayfinding, you have the St. Joe stationery and business cards, and now you have a black and white with the logo's not correct either. It has a,
Yeah, if you drive around the city, there's tons of signage here. that's
doesn't
on
mean it
city
makes it
property.
right.
I totally, you can vote
I mean,
no.
you're allowing, if you allow this happening, you're saying to the residents, yes, just produce anything and we'll hang it up.
Yeah,
And I think especially it's because our logo is on it too.
It's a reflection of the city. If you don't have clear design, it reflects that we can't think clearly.
okay. I move to approve the placement of a historical sign recognizing and remembering the history of Milton Park as the original home of the St. Joe High School, contingent upon facts checking for accuracy.
Support.
Any public comment on the matter? Come on up.
My name's Jill Cregan, and I did grow up here. My dad was born right across from Milton Park when that was a school. And I think the historical knowledge of the sign, and I'm sorry to say this, my daughter is a branding business. That's her business too, and I understand your point. But the historical, what this is saying, I find is more important than the branding at this point. And I think it's great knowledge that should be there. I do wonder where in the park it's going to be put though. And you guys probably haven't figured that out yet. But I think this is great. And I think it's great that somebody's wanted to do it. And I think it's great that that information will be there because this is historical. And I understand, like I said, the branding, but I think that in a sign like this, that it really shouldn't take precedence. Sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you.
actually, I'd like to amend my motion to also include upon review and confirmation of historical accuracy, that they confer with the Parks Department on the sign location. I mean, I think that makes
Absolutely.
sense.
Yes, we would.
Tentative location that's been discussed is there's an existing concrete bench that was made using, I want to say the cornerstone of the old school, but there's parts of the old school that were used to make this old concrete bench.
Cool.
And the thought was to put it near there.
Mhm.
Any other public comment?
Procedurally,
Do you support the amendment?
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lori.
Thanks, Lori.
Did you have more comment?
No,
No.
that
Okay.
was it.
Okay, we're
I-
taking more
I
public
support
comment
that.
then. Did I see a hand maybe? No. Okay, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas?
No.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla?
Yes.
Commissioner Ori?
No.
Commissioner Bentley?
No.
All right, motion fails. Thank you, Greg. Move on to item number 13, Old St. Joseph Neighborhood Association Park, Bear Park Memorial.
Dr. Jeff Richards was the longest serving city commissioner in our city's history at 37.5 years, serving as both mayor and mayor pro tem during those 37 plus years. Former Commissioner and Mayor Mike Gary, with the blessing of Dr. Richards' wife, Nancy, is spearheading an effort to place a large rock with a plaque embedded in the rock in Old St. Joseph Neighborhood Park, better known as Bear Park, as well as plant a ginkgo tree in memory of Dr. Richards. An example of the rock plaque combination is provided as a point of reference for what it'll look like. It's one that is currently at the band shell in memory of Dr. Maley, the former band director for the municipal band. Mr. Gary, in conjunction with the Old St. Joseph Neighborhood Association, will start a fundraiser to cover the cost of the memorial proposed for the park. This time, the exact cost estimated is between $1,500 and $2,000. Any additional funds raised above and beyond that will be given to the St. Joseph Parks Foundation in memory of Dr. Richards. The Parks Board did approve this as part of their regular May meeting for the placement of the memorial in Old St. Joseph Neighborhood Park. Any questions? Also, the plaque, there's the language that would be on the plaque, and that again has been approved by Dr. Richards' wife. So we're working with some monument companies to get some pricing and see what it'll actually look like.
Thank you. I'll just share that, he passed away shortly after he stepped down from the commission, and he left a really big mark on our community, not only through the commission, but through his business as well. As a vet, he was my vet. So I know that he was loved dearly by a lot of different people in our community. So I think this is a really great thing to honor him.
I share that sentiment. I never met him, myself, but I think this is a great tribute. And, if his family in particular is happy with this, I think this is a very lovely tribute. So I don't have any concerns.
Okay.
I move to approve the placement of a plaque and tree in the Old St. Joseph Neighborhood Bear Park in memory of former Commissioner and Mayor Dr. Jeff Richards.
Support.
Any public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez,
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Yes.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes. Thank you. All right, County Transit Authority. I think we have a guest coming on up to present.
Yeah. So Dan Fetty from the county is joining us this evening to talk about an effort underway to streamline the 3 or maybe 4 different transit authorities
Who's counting?
that currently operate in Berrien County.
Thank
pull
you.
up your
It's nice to be
presentation.
back here again tonight. Emily, I could go through the whole presentation, which is lengthy and it's been a long meeting for you already, or I can just,
We're just getting started.
or I can just talk. It's your decision. I'm happy to just explain what's happening here.
Just talk to us.
Many of you probably are aware that last August, MDOT contacted City of Benton Harbor, Berrien County, and the Twin City Area Transportation Authority, Takata, and announced in that communication that as of October 1st this year, Takata is no longer going to be eligible to receive state or federal funding for public transportation services. The reason for this, we could get into, but the, historical difficulties in managing their finances, a number of accidents that have led to outrageous insurance claims, and a basic inability to provide the kind of service that they are mandated to do so by the federal and state government. And as a result of that, Takata is not going to be able to receive the funding to provide these services starting October 1st. At the same time, Berrien Bus, which is one of the other public transit services in Berrien County, is running a persistent structural budget deficit that we have no solution to because we don't receive any local funding. Our funding comes exclusively from state and federal reimbursements, as well as fare box receipts and contracts that we have at educational institutions. We have no millage, for example, to support this. So we don't have a solution to our financial problems either. There are 3 transit systems in Berrien County: Takata, Berrien Bus, and Niles Dial-A-Ride, which serves the Niles Township Buchanan area. Having those 3 systems has been a problem for passengers in Berrien County for 40 years. It creates difficulties of duplicative services, additional overhead, which strips money away from actual service delivery, Navigating between these three systems can be a challenge for anyone. In fact, we did a time study a couple of years ago that showed that to take a bus from Buchanan to South Bend takes 8.5 hours because of the multiple bus changes and fares that you have to pay. It's an unworkable system. We've been trying to fix this for years. We haven't been able to finally get a unified system. But because of MDOT's announcement that Takata is basically going to be cut off from funding, this is motivating new conversations about how to solve this problem. MDOT specifically requested that the Berrien County Board of Commissioners create a new countywide regional transportation authority under Public Act 186 of 1986. This would not be an authority managed by Berrien County. It would be an independent corporation charged with managing all public transportation throughout Berrien County. The idea behind this is to slowly begin unifying the Berrien bus system, the Takata system, and the Niles system into one unified operating transit system, eliminating all of these difficult jurisdictional problems and so forth. The other problem that we're facing here, and one of the reasons that the state has decided to defund Takata, is that Takata is charged with providing urban transportation services along the entire coast of Berrien County, running from Hager Township through Benton Township, Benton Harbor, St. Joe Township, Lincoln Township, Stevensville, Lake Township, Village of Baroda, Bridgman, Chickamine, New Buffalo Township, and the city of New Buffalo, all the way down to the state line. They are currently only providing services, though, in the city of Benton Harbor exclusively. There's some limited service that occurs in the city of St. Joe and St. Joe Township, but it's very limited nature. As a result of not providing those services in the overall urban area, there are 34,000 residents in Berrien County that do not have access to any public transportation at all. Of the service that is currently being provided between Berrien Bus and Takata, we provide about 155,000 passenger rides every year. Of those passenger rides, approximately 55,000 of those go to elderly individuals or disabled individuals, for which this is the only form of transportation for them. We're talking about people having to go to the doctor's office, medical appointments, the hospital, the grocery store, in some cases to school. Many of the students out in LMC, for example, rely on public transportation to get there. If we don't do anything to address the funding challenges that MDOT has essentially announced we're going to be created for Takata and address our own funding challenges in Berrien Bus, those 155,000 passenger rides are going to go away, and they could go away by the end of this year. I mean, we are really at a crisis moment. So the solution to this is the creation of the Regional Transit Authority and then a slow process of bringing the assets of these various providers under the ownership and management of this authority. The Board of Commissioners is preparing that process to incorporate this transit authority, but they are requesting support from local communities as they take action. Now, I will tell you, we already have letters of support or resolutions of support from 34 different countywide agencies, including everyone involved in the healthcare industry, the educational institutions, RISA, LMC, and many of the public school systems, many of the public service agencies that you'd be familiar with, Area Agency on Aging, organizations, like such as the United Way, Southwest Michigan Regional Chamber of Commerce, and so forth. We also have support from a number of communities who have directly passed resolutions asking or supporting the county board to take this action. Those would be Chickamine Township, City of New Buffalo Township. I'm here today for that very purpose to ask for your support. We've also met with St. Joe Township, Lincoln Township, Stevensville, and we're anticipating, and Village of Berrien Springs, we're anticipating resolutions of support from those communities as well in the coming weeks. We have been in contact with the city of Benton Harbor and Takata to try to negotiate how this changeover would occur, what Benton Harbor's continuing role would be in transportation. They will maintain a vital role. They own the buses, they employ the drivers that are going to be necessary if the system is to work. So in principle, this new authority is going to have to work in a partnership basis with Takata, even though Takata won't be receiving the money anymore. They will be an important service provider in this process. To that end, we've received assurances from both the mayor of Benton Harbor and board members of Takata that they are on board with this. They agree that this is the right direction to move. The mayor's state of his city address last week that we attended, he spoke very favorably of this, indicating that there were advantages to creating this regional authority, not just for the residents of Benton Harbor, but for the community as a whole. So the final component to this is, of course, it's going to take a lot of money to make this happen. We believe it's going to take at least another $500,000 to $1 million of annual funding to make this work appropriately. MDOT has committed to provide that funding, 100% of it, for the first year of operations, 80% of it for the second year of operations, 60% for the third year of operations. They have a program in place that allows for this funding to trickle through to what they call a New Start initiative. And they have committed to providing the funding to make this work for the first 3 years on a declining basis. The idea is to buy us time to figure out how to raise the additional local revenue necessary to make this sustainable in the long run. There are various models of how that can happen, but we'll have to get into that as we move forward. The last thing I'll say is we prepared in 2014 and then again in 2018, some of you may recall, we prepared comprehensive studies of transportation in Berrien County. Those studies concluded there's only one way to do this effectively for the residents of the county and the most cost-effective way possible, and that is to have a unified regional system under the control of a professionally managed corporation. I don't want to offend any of you by saying that these systems shouldn't be managed by politicians, because oversight is critical for all of these public programs, but we need to have these buses being run, dispatched, maintained by professional managers who are accustomed to running a transit service like this. So that's the direction we're moving forward in. MDOT is working hand in hand with us, the Federal Transit Administration. I was just in meetings with them for most of the week. They are also on board with this, and they're ready to make the funding transitions as soon as the new authority is established and impaneled. And we're asking for your support in this matter as we move forward this summer in trying to create this new system.
Thank you.
Questions?
All right, what questions do we have?
Hey, no questions. I mean, I don't want to, add on, but I will. Words can't express how much it would mean to the community to have a functional county-wide, transportation system like this. You described several of the reasons, that people rely on this for, their healthcare, but in addition to, just the basic humanities aspect of taking care of our population here, the economic benefits, of having a fully functional, it would be tremendous, for our city, neighboring cities, the entire county. This lifts all of the boats, by having a functional mechanism. Like you said, I think the biggest lift is, creating what will the future funding, but we have a path and this.
Well, the briefing materials that I provided to you that Emily gave, you'll see in there, we know that only about 60% of all jobs in Berrien County are currently serviced by public transportation. So 40% of the employment locations have no transportation available to them. And you can imagine the limiting factor that has if you're an employer and you're looking to try to hire new people, and there's limited ways to get them to your place of employment. So what we're proposing here and what our previous studies demonstrated could be done is to serve all of the employment locations in Berrien County at the same level of service.
You mentioned MDOT was in for support 100% in year 1, 80 in year 2, and 60 in year 3. Does it completely go away in year 4, or do they have a floor?
Yeah, they can only fund it for 3 years. Yeah. And Mike, that's the way all the other systems were designed this way. They were originally given the 100% funding to start with.
Got it.
And there was this decline that, declining scale of funding.
Right.
Now, the way that you make up for that at the local level, there's a variety of ways. There's no beating around the bush. The most efficient way to do that is through a transit millage, but we're not prepared to even begin discussing that right now because we don't know what the true cost would be. Other communities have funded it separately by having contracts in place similar. It's probably not the best example right now to mention, but similar to the way Medic Route 1 is operating, where communities pay a direct fee for the service. There's also other counties that are doing this kind of in a hybrid model where they have communities paying into it, but they also have social service agencies, educational institutions, and healthcare institutions that contributed to it as well on an annual basis. So there are different models to fund this, but we're going to have to figure out over the next 3 years what's the appropriate one for this county.
And if we don't figure it out, it goes away and we don't have a transit system after 3 years.
That's precisely what MDOT's telling us. And, we've seen the state make threats before in order to try to motivate action, and we've seen them back down in the past. But I will tell you, in every conversations I've had with state directors all the way up to the governor's office, this position is not changing. If something isn't done, they are going to cut the funding for it.
And what's triggering this is not necessarily budgetary issues within the state. It is mismanagement or their unhappiness with the entity that was in place. Is that correct?
It's an inability to provide the services that they're charged with providing.
Got it.
And the management issues, Listen, I will say this, to be generous to Takata, they went out and hired a third-party operator that's been in the newspaper. You've seen they have this new company called Via Transportation that's now running Takata on a contract basis. In the 2.5 months that Via's been in Benton Harbor doing this, they've done a tremendous job in improving some of these managerial issues. The complaints have dropped considerably. The on-time responses have risen considerably. So there's a way to change the management process and make it more efficient. But it's the inability to provide the full services that they're being asked to provide. And that can really only be done through a unified system.
Yeah. And I'll just, go ahead.
I was gonna say the unified system piece makes a lot of sense, right? Because just depending on where people live and where they work, it is not always in the same town here. We need that connection piece of it.
It can be pretty heartbreaking for us when we get a call from a resident, say in the city or in the village of Stevensville, that needs to go to a medical appointment in Royalton Township. And
Yeah.
we can't find a way to get them there, you know?
And I'll just share anecdotally where I work at the Children's Advocacy Center. We are purposely located centrally in the county to try and make it equidistant to all these communities, but there really is no way to get there. We hardly, I don't know, I can't remember a time that we've had public transportation deliver a client, and we have a lot of clients with transportation needs. So we end up having to rely on our law enforcement partners, our CPS partners to provide that transportation for these families to get to their therapy, to get to these investigations, these interviews. And so having that transit system just kind of take that burden off of our law enforcement and other partners would be a really great thing for our community to have.
A lot of my students needed it too, and it did not exist, just realistically.
Yeah, I mean, we had a situation a few years ago with LMC where Takata was going to have to temporarily suspend service because they lost their insurance. And it was right during final exams in December. And the college was concerned that a number of their students weren't going to be able to get to their final exams. These kind of things in a county of our size with our wealth and our taxable value, this kind of system just shouldn't persist. I mean, we should be able to provide a service that's much better for our residents than what currently exists.
Thank you for that presentation. Any other questions from the commission? No? All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to adopt the attached resolution supporting the formation of a Berrien County-wide public transportation authority as presented.
Second. Any public comment on the matter? Come on up.
Have you guys thought about presenting this to the taxpayers? How do you mean, sir? Like, if you're going to establish a new regional authority and you have no way to pay for it in about 4 or 5 years, perhaps ask the voters their opinion?
Well, that actually will have to happen at some point. What we're trying to do now is ensure that the services that currently exist don't terminate come October, to provide better service in the unserved area immediately so that we have an actually unified system. In terms of asking the voters, it wouldn't be Berrien County that would have to do that. A new transit authority would be the party that would have to ask for that. I mean, one of the things that we're trying to do here is to get this out of a political realm and under the management of an organization that knows how to do it. But it would be the authority that would be charged with the responsibility of trying to find that level of community support and financial support. In terms of asking the voters right now to fund a system that is simply drawn up on paper but not operating, I don't think that would be a fair ask. We need to actually have something operating before we can ask the voters to support it.
Now, what I would argue would be good to be transparent.
Well, I don't think we're being.
What the estimate cost is going to be, value, the whole 9 yards, because you have a wonderful opportunity to reshape the whole thing.
Sir, I would say I don't think that we're being, we're lacking transparency here. In fact, we have thousands of pages of studies that are available actually on our website that show exactly what the projections are. The figures are the ridership numbers, the cost, the hourly cost, the cost per mile. That's all broken down and available for the public to review. We've presented this in multiple different public forums as well. Now, granted, those studies are in some cases 8 years older, so the cost estimations certainly don't reflect recent inflation, but we've been engaged in open and public discussion of this for years now.
Okay. And just to be clear, this is not a back and forth. If you have public comment, you can make it to the commission. And if you have questions, we can get you follow-up answers too, please. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem. Any
One of-
other? Go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of the things I appreciate is the number of communities who are starting in this conversation at the get-go as Dan is driving it forward and bringing everyone together to have a shared county-wide discussion to figure out what the future of this looks like. So I'm very appreciative of that partnership at the county level.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we have a motion and a second. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Yes.
Commissioner Betney,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
All right, thank you. All right, next item is Silver Beach Center parking. Is that you?
So that is me, and I will add two caveats. One, that I continue to have no voice, so I apologize. And the other is that Amy Greenlay from Silver Beach Center is here in the room and can answer questions if there are any that I'm not able to answer. The gist of this is that the Silver Beach Center, as you likely know, has long charged for parking in their lot. Last summer, they were interested in collaborating with us to get a pay station that would allow them to no longer have to staff a person collecting money, and sort of be more efficient in the way that they handle payment for their lot. It didn't happen last year for reasons we don't need to get into, but this year we do want to move it forward. And as it so happens, we no longer need to purchase a new pay station for them because we are going from having 30 pay stations to having 21 pay stations. So we have a few available. So we have a proposal here for you tonight that we've agreed on with the Silver Beach Center that would sell one of our available pay stations to the Silver Beach Center. It is at a depreciated value. They would pay it back over 4 years. And we have a model for supporting them on enforcement and supporting them on sort of the day-to-day maintenance and operations. That's it at a very high level. If you have other questions, I am happy to go through it, or I'm sure Amy is as well.
Any questions?
First I want to say, good job to the city of reusing things that we're not using. That's awesome. My concern is if a resident or a tourist parks in that parking lot, or a resident, I mean, and they think it's for free, I'm like, what are the indications so they know exactly where they're parking and the terms?
Sure. Yeah, so that's part of the MOU that is attached here. We do have specific language indicating that the signage and the branding will be completely separate. This is not part of any of our parking programs. It's not part of our parks program. It's not part of our downtown program. This will be Silver Beach Center's parking program. And so all of the branding will be different. The hours will be different. It will be separate. We will work with Silver Beach Center to make sure they have appropriate signage up that indicates it is a separate program. It won't be free to residents, to the best of my understanding. Silver Beach Center will establish that. It will be hourly parking. It'll be very similar to what they do currently. So it will be all about the branding and the messaging that will be used to differentiate.
That's great news. What happens so when you purchase parking and it will have City St. Joe, what's the language on the credit card statement?
It will be part of the City of St. Joseph backend. So it will leverage what we have in place, the kiosk as well as the backend system. So it will say City of St. Joseph. We'll also be working with public safety to patrol the lot because it is sort of a quasi-public lot. So that will all tie back to the City of St. Joseph, but everything on the front end will be branded Silver Beach Center.
Perfect. Okay. Other questions? Nothing? All right. What's the pleasure of the commission? Yeah.
I move to approve the agreement with Silver Beach Center as presented.
Second.
All right. Any public comment on the matter?
I'm Lilo, citizen, resident. And I've been thinking about this. We've been talking about the parking and making extra parking up on top and so on and so forth. I was wondering, why can't this Berrien Center or Berrien County put another level to their parking down there in order to have more parking for them where everybody's going from up in town, which has been the big problem. with all the parking is that we don't have enough spaces. And so now we're just going to do another system rather than getting more spaces again. So that was my concern, is why can't Berrien County or whoever runs that park put money into getting another level of parking down there so we can have some extra spaces?
Sure.
Thank you.
Do you want me to?
If you have a response.
I mean, my most basic response is that we have no control over the county parking lots or the Silver Beach Center parking lot. We are only in a position to make modifications to our own lots. So we can certainly enter into an agreement with the county, which we recently did. We're going to be working in partnership with them at the courthouse lot this summer. It's 190 or so spaces, similar to what we did last summer. The Silver Beach Center will have their lot. I think it's 80 or so spaces. And of course, the county beach will have their own lot, but we don't get to control
Right, I'm
what they
not
do
talking
there.
about control, I'm talking about cooperation, and why, if we're talking about getting levels and building, parking garages and things like that, everybody wants to put it right on the bluff and ruin St. Joe. Why can't we put extra parking spaces down below, or where, right over here, where we've got a terrible parking lot that could have another level on it, or we could put, there's so many other places we could put another level of parking instead of messing up what's going on down in our little city, which everybody who comes here from out of town appreciates. So instead of changing the aesthetics up here on the bluff, why can't we do it back here somewhere or down on the beach? And yeah, it would take some cooperation. And I understand that you're not the authority, but we need to, kind of work that kind of thing out instead of putting it all on St. Joe and building huge buildings so that we can have more parking. That's my suggestion.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Ulrich,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettany,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Strolla.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Next is Rybell's extended hours for amplified music.
I have Nathaniel Bishop from Rybell's with me. Rybell's Restaurant and Bar at 518 Broad Street, City of St. Joseph, plans to have amplified music sound on its outdoor patio again this summer. The city's ordinance restricts amplified music after 10 p.m. This summer, Nathaniel Bishop, manager of Rybell's Restaurant and Bar, is asking the City Commission for approval to continue amplified sound until 11/15 on the following 20 dates. They start on June 12th and run through September 4th. To be transparent with the City Commission, we did receive 3 log complaints last year. 2 happened during their approved hours. The third happened just shortly after at 23:40. They were approved for 11:30 last year. And when our officers arrived, the music had already stopped. And Nathaniel can talk further about it.
Nathaniel Bishop, Rybell's. First, I want to thank the commission for approving our extended hours request last year. From our perspective, it was very successful. The additional time had a meaningful positive impact on our business. We saw strong customer activity later in the evening, increased food and beverage sales, and greater support for local musicians performing in St. Joseph. Based on the success of last year's trial, we are respectfully requesting approval for 20 dates this season with an extension until 11:15 p.m. The additional 15 minutes is simply intended to help with the natural spillover and orderly closing after 11 p.m. I would like to point out that these requested dates are limited to Fridays and Saturdays only, meaning there will be no impact Sunday night through Thursday night. We believe this request supports not only Rybell's, but also the overall summer atmosphere in St. Joseph. Live music helps create energy, encourages visitors to stay longer, and benefits local businesses throughout the downtown area. So I appreciate your consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I believe you have the requested dates on the agenda packet, but I'd be happy to review them if you needed.
Thank you. Any questions?
Not so much a question other than, appreciate, the thought that you put into, your proposal. I think it's, it adds vibrancy to our city, and specifically giving people things to do, entertainment, is something that we need more of. As I speak to, my constituents and people that have moved here and are looking to move here, there's an appetite for more things to do and helping to extend our vibrancy and taking advantage of, like you pointed out, most of your requested dates are on weekends. They're all on weekends, not just most. During the summertime when we have daylight and you're just trying to extend the hours, right? Make something, give people something to do. So I thank you for doing that, as it benefits the city. Anything, that you guys as businesses can do to give people more reasons to come to our city just benefits you directly as they're in your store, but in restaurants, but it helps your neighbors as well. So thank you for, doing that. I think this is great. I wish we had more of it. And I do also want to add, it's a very reasonable, thing. You're in the middle of downtown. You're just trying to go a little bit past your closing time. This is very thoughtful. And you are in the very middle of our downtown. The fact that you're, restricting this to weekends, I think is very, very thoughtful. There are people that live there full time as well. So I appreciate you trying to find a balance of something that works for everything, but ultimately this is nothing but a good thing for the city to extend our vibrancy.
Yeah, having been on that rooftop when there's amplified music, I also point out there's amplified music and then there's amplified music. And the music on your rooftop is amplified, but it's not extremely loud. It strikes just the right balance, I think, between what you expect of live music, but being considerate of the neighbors and other businesses down there. So I think it's been just right in the past. I suspect it will be going forward.
I appreciate that.
I have one question. Last year, how many times did you go over the time limit?
I believe we went over once.
Once?
Yeah. And the other two times, I believe they came relatively early too, 8:45 or 9 o'clock. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice too.
So fun.
Are the musicians generally pretty good about wrapping things up to make sure, when you address it with the one time when they went over, the musicians cut it off pretty quickly?
They don't have a choice.
Okay.
Very quick.
Yeah.
And so I think for the complaints, which Steve might be looking at now, essentially two of them were before they had gone late, and I think it was about the sound itself. And to the best of my knowledge, they were not over the decibel level or, out of compliance in any way. Although we certainly have those two complaints recorded. It was the third was the only single time that we have recorded where there was anything out of compliance because they were just past the cutoff time. I don't remember the timing exactly, but it was, I want to say within 15 to 20 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, thank you.
I move to approve the request to allow amplified sound at Rybell's Restaurant and Bar until 11:15 PM on the above dates.
Second.
Any public comment on the matter? Okay, seeing none. Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Bentley?
Yes.
Mayor Thomas?
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez?
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla?
Yes.
Commissioner Overy?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. And now we've got sanitary sewer service agreement, SWMRSSWA and Benton Charter Township. What is that acronym?
I will tell you, yes. Wait a minute here. There are actually two agreements before you tonight, and this item and the next kind of flow together. So the memo is written to encompass both. But I'll start with the sanitary sewer, actually the bond issue, which would be the next issue. You may recall last year, Kevin Pockrent, who's here tonight, provided the city commission with information on what the joint wastewater treatment plant, which is the sewage plant, basically, the improvements that they're doing to the facility that are really needed to bring the facility up to date. I'm not going to go into any of those tonight. There was a pretty big discussion of that in the last year, but he is here if you have questions about it, and he can explain it far better than I could. But in order to fund those, there's a bonding process, and it's a two-part process. Last year, in July, the commission approved the first request for the bonding, and that was to issue a notice of intent to issue bonds.
That notice of intent was joint with the city of Benton Harbor. Benton Harbor and St. Joseph jointly own the plant. So those two communities need to work together to move this forward. The bonding would actually be paid for by user rates. So it's not a tax, it's a user fee that's associated with that. The notice of intent to issue the bonds was published in the newspapers, and there was a 45-day referendum period after that where people could protest if they wanted to do that. So that went through, and there's no time period for the next step, which is tonight, which is to adopt an ordinance to issue the bonds. The bonds would be an amount that would not exceed $20 million payable over a 30-year period. The reason for the bond funding is to help keep the rates at sustainable levels so that it doesn't greatly increase user fees now, and it manages it over a more level time period, or over a time period at a more level basis. And I think, really important to consider here is that the estimated cost savings by going through this right now, the bonding the cost without the bonding would be about $24.4 million. With bond funding, and there's a forgiveness associated with this, and I think that's $2 million. The cost would be about $17 million. So there's a substantial savings by moving forward with the program now. So as part of that bonding process, there is a Southwest Michigan Regional Sanitary Sewer and Water Authority that manages all this. We have agreements. It's a sanitary sewer service agreement with that, and that's what the acronym stands for. In the member municipalities, the St. Joseph Charter Township, Lincoln Charter Township, and Royalton Township, and the cities have the agreement together, and it's a 30-year agreement. We've extended that to comply or comport with the time period for the bonds. So it would extend to a 33-year period, so it would get us past the bond period. The agreements provide mechanisms for, how the funding works, the participation, kind of all the details of how the program's managed. There's also a similar agreement with Benton Charter Township and St. Joseph Charter Township East. When I prepared the memo, we hadn't received the signature for St. Joseph Charter Township on the sanitary sewer service agreement with the authority, which is the short-term way of referring to the Southwest Michigan Regional Sanitary Sewer and Water Authority. So the authority agreement is the big overriding agreements. It's the one that really contains the most components of usage. St. Joe Township signed it today, so we have everybody's signature on it except for the city of St. Joseph. The sanitary sewer service agreement with Benton Charter Township is also fully signed except for the city of St. Joseph. We will bring forward to hopefully the end of June the agreement with St. Joseph Charter Township East. That's a very small portion of the usage, and they're just working out some details on the engineering proposals, mainly a little bit of detail. But there's agreement fully. I think all the communities are on board with the bonding. No issues have been raised with that, and I think everybody sees the need and the benefit of moving forward with that. So that's kind of a big overview of that. The first request here would be to approve the two sanitary sewer agreements that are presented, the one with the authority and the one with Benton Charter Township. I will note that the Benton Charter Township agreement has exhibits. I did leave a stack on your desk here today that has a copy of the exhibits. It's from the original agreement. There's one extra exhibit, which is referred to as Exhibit D in that stack. That's not in the current agreement, so those need to be revised, but I believe that all the other exhibits are accurate, but will need to be re-identified. So we'll work on getting that. So the motion would be just making sure that those are included with the agreement. So did I miss anything, Kevin or Tim?
Okay, great. Okay, any questions from the commission?
This was all very detailed and I appreciate the write-up and, information that you had given to help us understand it. So thank you, Lori. No further questions from me.
Pleasure of the commission.
I move to approve the sanitary sewer service agreement 2026 between the City of Benton Harbor, City of St. Joseph, Southwest Michigan Regional Sanitary Sewer and Water Authority, and the Benton Harbor St. Joseph Joint Wastewater Treatment Plant and member municipalities as presented, and to approve the sanitary sewer service agreement with Benton Charter Township as presented with exhibits A through F to be attached upon receipt.
Second.
Any public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Overy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettany.
Yes.
Thank you. And next one is you as well, the ordinance to allow issuance of bonds for sewage disposal system bonds, JWWTP.
There are a lot of words that are hard to say all together here with these, but yes, the next item kind of flows into what I had just discussed. I did notice that unfortunately on the agenda packet, the suggested motion was not attached, so I'll kind of give you some guidance with that. But again, this would be to allow the issuance of bonds for the sewage disposal system to move forward as discussed before. All the details again are in the bonds, including the bond form. Benzinski and Company act as the advisor for the revenue bonds. And then we have Ron Liscombe with Miller Canfield, Paddock and Stone, who serves as bond counsel to the issuer for the revenue bonds. And we've been working pretty closely with him to make sure things move forward. The time periods are critical and there are a lot of moving pieces and parts. So he's very anxious to hear from me tomorrow morning. But I would request the motion would be to adopt the joint ordinance with the City of Benton Harbor as presented, authorizing the issuance and sale of junior lien joint revenue bonds in an amount not to exceed $20 million payable over a 30-year period.
Any questions? And can we just say so?
I would like to make a motion to the exact effect of the words Lori just read.
Is there no
Support.
That's so say, okay.
Any public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Overy,
Yes.
Commissioner Bettany,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, last item is our Peninsula Fiber Network easements and service agreement.
I'll do have it. I'm gonna pull up the PowerPoint.
Oh. Maybe. Okay. Great.
All right, so this is kind of a you may have heard about this in the news, and I think we've probably briefed you on this before. There is Peninsula Fiber Network, PFN, has been working on a project to bring fiber optic cable from Chicago across Lake Michigan to St. Joseph, and it will eventually connect up to Byron Center, and that's to basically provide better service to a lot of places that don't have great service right now or no service. So it's part of a statewide program, and you'll see as Emily's pulling this up. Yeah, they did give us a PowerPoint that kind of overview, but there are 3 locations in Michigan that PFN has been working with. And one of them comes through St. Joseph and Benton Harbor. It's actually coming across Lake Michigan from Chicago at 2 points. Benton Harbor's is through the Gene Clock Park area. And
There's a way.
St. Joseph is right along Lakeshore Drive. There's a parcel that's vacant. You may have seen some of the testing equipment up. There's kind of a big pole in the lot right now, but it's across, it's west of Lakeshore Drive, across from the credit union site.
In the United Way.
United Federal Credit Union.
United Federal Credit Union, yeah, across from their lot. So almost a little kitty corner from where Hilltop comes out on Lakeshore Drive. There is a kind of a map in here somewhere. That might be the next one over. There we go. So that gives a little bit of an overview of where it comes in. That's a kind of a broad look at it. Doesn't show the parcel exactly. PFN has been working to identify the best route, working closely with the engineering department to make sure there's room for the utilities to come where they are. So two things have come up with this. One, they're requesting a temporary construction easement during the construction project. Two, basically work into a permanent easement for the property that the city owns on Lakeshore Drive. If you can bump it up a little bit, the conduit will come, keep going. It's a directional bore that comes in horizontal directional bore. Nope, keep going. So this a little bit shows it. Yeah, there we go. So it will come in through the ground and all the way up. It'll be roughly at least 100 feet below the surface of the city's lot, eventually coming out to the United Federal Credit Union property, where there will be a box located. So the easement that they're requesting from the city is to allow them to place that conduit under the city property and a temporary easement for the construction during that time period. The temporary easement would terminate December 31st of 2027. The perpetual easement would continue on. So those two draft easements are in your packet for your review. We're pretty close. I think we're pretty good on the easement language, but we are working with council, and there's been a little bit of back and forth and just some of the minor modifications there to do that. As part of the proposal, we have a memorandum of understanding that lays out the terms for it. So in exchange for the easement, they have offered to provide services to the city for a term of 5 years. Emily's been working through that very diligently.
And Tim.
And Tim, yes, we've all been working on this quite a while. And I think, yeah, Tim's probably been doing the bulk of a lot of this. There's been a lot of testing by PFN. And again, Tim and his department have been working closely with them because one of the things we want to make sure is that it's a stable site, that it's not going to cause any damage to the city property. It's an appropriate location. So they've done a lot of due diligence. We've actually sent, this has been going on for a while because John Hodgson actually sent them reports that had been done by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers way back. So they've been really looking at the records and doing additional testing and feel very confident this is a good location and there'll be no damage from it. The MOU addresses that the service will be provided for a term of 5 years to the city. That will come to the city at the Howard Ice Arena, and at which point it will connect to the city's fiber lines, and the city will determine where it goes from there to its buildings, not only to the city facilities. It's a really good way to get good service in. They're excited about it. We're excited about it. It's good for the community, I think, providing those additional options. So I feel like I'm missing something. You want to jump in?
I'll just underscore, I think this is a fabulous opportunity for the community. From an economic development perspective, having this fiber connection to Chicago is huge. And I think this is incredibly appealing for our residents and for future residents as well as visitors. The compensation that they've offered for these easements, 5 years of 3 gigabyte service at no cost to the city, and a wholesale rate beyond that, is also very appreciated compensation for the easement. So we're really pleased with that offer.
Great. Any questions?
Excellent. Do you have any idea what the timeline is on this? Very exciting.
They hope to be done with everything by 2028. So the easement, I guess, through the city property, that connection would be by December 31st of 2027. But by the end of 2028 is when they expect the whole project to be done and ready and up for service.
Great.
Yeah, it's been a long project, but it's pretty cool.
I remember hearing about this years ago. It was a presentation to the county board, and I was wondering when it was going to come to us. So here we are.
Yeah, and they'd be happy to come give a more robust presentation if you'd like to hear from them at some point.
I think they're starting from Byron Center coming this way. Is my understanding is that
They're,
Right.
I'm not sure about the land side of it, but my understanding was they wanted to do the lake side starting from the 26th. That's why they wanted to get it approved here, because they'd like to be out in the lake
Yeah.
this summer yet
Yeah.
and complete with that by the fall.
Yeah.
And then they run
Okay, you're right,
along
yeah.
Hilltop Road, up Washington, up Niles, across that Napier underneath, the St. River and such, so.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think I'm thinking of the time the easement, we always extend those longer than we need to make sure we
Just
cover
in
the
case.
period. Yeah, so.
Good.
Great. All right, what's the pleasure of the commission?
I move to approve the memorandum of understanding between the city and Peninsula Fiber Network LLC, PFN, to grant PFN a temporary construction easement and a perpetual easement over the property located at 3114 Lakeshore Drive as presented, contingent upon the city manager and city attorney's approval of any non-substantive changes, and to enter a master service agreement and service order for telecommunications services to the city containing the terms outlined in the MOU in the form approved by the city manager and city attorney.
Second.
Any public comment? All right, Abby, call the roll.
Commissioner Sorolla,
Yes.
Commissioner Ori,
Yes.
Commissioner Vetni,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Fernandez.
Yes.
All right, thank you. That concludes our agenda. We move on to city manager comments.
I didn't prepare any comments, because there was a lot going on, but I don't know if he's still here. I just want to give some recognition to Greg, and the Public Works team. They did so much getting ready for Blossom Time and then quickly followed by Memorial Day. The downtown, the area near the beach, everything looks fabulous. They work really closely with Public Safety, who is out there and, doing their very best. They always step up every summer. So just appreciate that. There's still more forthcoming, but just really appreciate the effort and how everything looks.
Very good, thank you. Any commission comments?
I frequent Wallace, a road that's on the north side of Dickinson Park. It's close to my home. And it was just unmistakable this year, the amount of softball and baseball games that were heavily attended. It was great to see. All the parking lot was full, all of Wallace was full. Girls softball, boys baseball, both heavily attended. And I can't help but believe that had something to do with the beautification of those parks. And just yesterday, I was at a grandson's baseball game and I heard four ladies behind me talking about the playground equipment that's coming and the bathrooms that they didn't know about and how excited they were. So I think all the things that have gone on at Dickinson Park have been sensational. The community is embracing it, and kudos to the city for getting that done. I know it was a big lift and it was a long process to get all those approvals, but I think it was well worth it. Agreed.
The St. Joseph City Lighthouse is open for the season again. They had their first successful Saturday open this past weekend, and looking forward to a lot more. So huge kudos in that case to St. Joseph today, who took over the volunteer management of that project, and of course all those volunteers too.
Yeah, great.
You got anything? I just want to take a moment to wish luck to our St. Joseph High School girls flag football team. They will be competing on Sunday at Ford Field to try to defend their state championship. They were the first ever girls flag football high school state champions last year. And this year they have a perfect 4-0 record and a 212-0 point differential. They're looking to defend their title. So good luck on Sunday.
Nice.
What's the over under on that game?
Last year, they had very similar results in the regular season. The championship game was 21-20.
Wow.
So we'll see how it goes.
The only thing I'll add is that I was visiting a nearby town, won't name it, but I was at the beach and it had some really nice amenities, but I gotta say the cleanliness of our area down here, it just kind of stood out very nicely that how all of our beaches are just put together so well, and it just was clean. And you wouldn't notice that until you go see one that's not so clean. So thank you to all of our staff for keeping our city looking really nice, so. Okay, I guess that concludes our meeting. We will close up here at 7:54 p.m.